Okay, let's talk about this 2012 Xine IQ. It's a car I own, gets great gas mileage. I get about 40 miles a gallon, this great little car. But of course, modern cars, excuse my language, they all suck when it comes to the engine compartment and trying to work on it, especially working on it yourself and you don't have a fully equipped dealership, with all the tools and this lifts and all that. Anyway, you can see the madness I had to go through here to get the alternator out. So there's an alternator right there. That's the new one that I managed to get back down in there. So we turn up the ISO here a little bit so we can get a better view of that. There we go. So there that is. And I just need to turn it around and get it orientated and get it mounted back on, put the belts back on and all that fun stuff. So that's what I got going on here. Yeah, look at this. I had to wire back the radiator hose or take it off, but I didn't want to do all that. And all these ridiculous harnesses like this one that you have to undo so you don't break them when you're pulling it out of there. And oh my gosh, it's just craziness the way these new cars are designed. Had to take the exhaust heat shield off. That is that thing right there. Had to take out the air filter box and the air filter, which needs to be replaced because it's dirty. Lots of fun stuff just to get the alternator out. Yeah. So anyway, and with this car, you've got to take the passenger side front wheel off. And I got a couple jack stands underneath there and the pneumatic lift just to be super safe. But yeah, you actually have to get underneath there to deal with one of the idler pulleys that has its own tensioner system. And yeah, it's been a fun few days because I've just been doing it when I can in between other stuff I got to do. So fun. I just share this with everybody, even though it's not quote-unquote business. Sometimes you gotta do stuff so you can continue to do business, you know what I mean? I need a car to get me around from A to B. I have an old pickup truck too, but it's not really something I want to make as a daily driver. It's more just used for picking up stuff and dropping off stuff. The reliability on the pickup truck's not going to be as good. So yeah, this great little car as far as fuel efficiency, but as far as changing all parts and all that, what a piece of junk. What a piece of junk. Give me old cars any day of the week. So much easier to work on. My local Toyota dealership wanted to charge me $1,000 just to pull an alternator out, guys. That's the insanity of where we're at in today's world. $1,000 to pull an alternator. I remember in the old days I could pull an alternator and literally, 30 minutes or less and put it back in. I've been working on this one for days because, like I said, I've been doing it in my spare time, but still I had to go little by little, piece by piece, and figure out how to do it without having the technicians step by step man hours, which is what they have, right? They have the step by step man hours manual that tells them how to do all this stuff, right? If they haven't done it before. So if a technician works on this car for the first time and has never worked on it before, they can grab the computer and it'll tell them, okay, you got to remove this in certain order, and they'll even tell you what tools you might need, and they'll tell you how many man hours it's going to take to do it. So that's how they do it nowadays. But for those of us that don't want to spend $1,000, and even if I took it to a local mechanic, they'd probably charge me at least $600 or $700. So even though it's taking me days and it's Christmas break, so I'm doing it myself, the weather here in Texas has been outstanding. We've got 75 degrees today. All the way through the first week of January, it's going to be high 70s, and we have like 4 days in a row they're going to be 80 or higher. Just remarkable. Okay, so here we are, probably an hour and a half, hour later, whatever it is. Got the alternator down in there, as you can see. Let me get the ISO going here. There we go. can see I got it down in there. And the bottom bolt I got in, which was a little 10mm jobby. So now this little trick that, you know, sometimes you got to do is the top one. It's kind of hard to see from this angle, but got the ratchet and the socket and the ratchet wrench on there. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to use one hand to hold the ratchet up against the bolt so we don't strip it, and we're going to use a long piece of pipe so we get some leverage on it. And that, once I'm done with that, then the rest of it's just slowly putting all this back together. Slowly putting the Texas dirty car back together. This has got to go bolt back into here. There's all kinds of stuff that's got to be put back together. This stuff, there's a bunch of harnesses that got to be clipped back in. And other good stuff. Okay, here I am about maybe 40 minutes later. I've gotten everything pretty much buttoned up, excuse the glare, but yeah, so you can see compared to the last portion of the clip, got the air box or air filter box back in. I got all the harnesses hooked back up. The radiator top radiator hose has been put back and mounted in. Okay. And I didn't want to disconnect it and have a bunch of radiator antifreeze all over the place, so it was nice just to be able to tie it back over here underneath here and keep without having to disconnect everything. And then you got to refill it, and then there's radiator fluid in the driveway. No matter how much you try to catch it in a pan, it's always gets somewhere and blah blah blah. So it was nice to avoid that. And then you can see there's the alternator. There's some very interesting little brackets that have to be rehooked back up so that wires don't flop around in the wind, and all kinds of interesting stuff to double check and triple check when you're putting this all back together. So there's the alternator ready to roll. I just need to, the belt's going to come in. I ordered it online, so it's going to take another day or two for it to come in. Meantime, the car just sit here, no big deal. Right there is the water pump pulley. I thought I was going to have to take that off, but as it turned out, I didn't, because I had a wrench that could get down in there. Let's see if I can show you the bolt. It's might be hard to see. So about the middle of the frame, and I'm going to put the screwdriver right on it. Right there. That bolt right there. That sucker is right next to the water pump pulley. You can see there's very little room there, just the way it's casted right there around it. But I was able to get a 12mm socket down in there and just get the right length between there and the front of the car, or the passenger side of the car, this bodywork here, right? Well, there was very little room there, but I managed to get just the right length with some adapters and so on, and it worked out. So I'm across the street from a pretty active place, so. But I love small town America, and I live in small town America, and I wouldn't trade it for any big city, no matter how much money or fame or glory or anything else somebody threw my way. So this is the side of the car. Yeah, so that big one is the crank. This is called an idler pulley. Okay. And this pulley over here actually goes to the AC. It's an auxiliary. It's on a different belt. But in infinite wisdom of Toyota, the serpentine belt's behind the AC belt, so you actually have to take them both off. A pain in the butt that is, but whatever. So this pulley is very interesting. What you do is you loosen the middle nut. You can see right there it's loose, and then you, let me just bump up the light even more, and then this nut right here is the final tensioner nut. You screw it in, you screw it out, and this pulley, see how it slides up and down? So that nut adjusts that. So you have to loosen this first. A lot of people don't know how these work. They forget to loosen this middle nut, and then they're bending the tensioner nut. So that's how that one works. And then there's a pulley, a tensioner pulley that's up in here behind the fender. You can't see it, and you have to get to it from the top. And yeah, it's the hardest part of this whole, well, one of the hardest parts of the job is getting a wrench on it and getting your two hands down on there. One's putting the belt on or taking it off, and the other one's pushing on the tensioner. So that's a real pain in the rear. Couple knuckle busters there. Couple good scrapes. Yep. Inevitably, when you're doing this kind of work, you're going to get, and I wore gloves and stuff like that, but eventually it's going to get you, because you can't always wear a glove because of tight spots and stuff like that. So this job, which is my own car, and I don't do auto mechanics for other people, thank God, this job is pretty much done except for the belts. I refrained from cussing and cursing during this whole time, but a few might have slipped out. And then once we get the belts back on, we'll hook the battery back up, and hopefully everything starts up and she charges good, and we're good to go. Okay, guys, I just thought I'd share all this with all of you on my business channel, because you know what, guys, sometimes you got to do the work yourself. Like I said earlier in the video, Toyota wanted to charge me $1,000 to do this job. A local dealership wanted to charge me even more, and then, you know, some of the smaller mechanic shops, you know, we're still talking $600, $700, $800 to do the job. So I'm like, forget that. You know, I was able to get a remanufactured alternator for like $150, and then of course the labor's all on me. So, and the belt was like, you know, whatever, $5. So there you go. You know, but the difference between $1,000 and doing it yourself. I'll take $175, $150 any day of the week over $1,000. Of course, I took the car in and had to pay $150 initially to Toyota to diagnose a problem, because I wasn't sure if it was the water pump, was it the alternator, was it either pulley, because, you know, they're all bearing oriented and they all make the same kind of noise. So they put the stethoscope on it and figured it out for me. $150, guys, ridiculous, right? And the world is turned upside down. It's crazy. It's absolute highway robbery what people are charging for stuff nowadays. So I'm like, forget that. I took my time over a period of a few days and just did all this work myself in my spare time. And like I said, I'll do that any day of the week over giving them $1,000, because that's a ripoff. All right, guys and gals, hope you really enjoyed the video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to click that little bell. Okay? So you get notified of all the videos as I put them out. Talk to you all real soon again next time.